I never imagined I'd be telling a story like this, but some things are too real to keep silent. My name is Alex. About a year ago, my ex-girlfriend Lina died by suicide. We had been together almost 2 years. At first, everything was perfect, or at least it felt that way. But in the last few months before we broke up, things changed. She grew distant, cold, and quiet. I tried to reach her, to understand, but it was like she was slipping away through my fingers. The night she died is a blank spot in my memory. I remember the phone call, the one that shattered everything but not much else. I didn't go to the funeral. I couldn't. The pain was too much. The guilt, even worse. I kept asking myself, could I have saved her? Was there something I missed? Then the nightmares started. At first I thought it was just grief, but they were more than dreams. In every nightmare, Lina stood at the foot of my bed, soaked in water, her eyes empty and lifeless. She never spoke, but the silence was deafening. Sometimes she'd scream, but no sound would come out. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, heart racing. I tried to ignore it, convinced it was my mind playing tricks, but things got worse. One evening, while going through some old boxes, I found a photo of us, burned around the edges. I was sure I had destroyed all our pictures. How did this one survive? It felt like it was calling me. That same night, my phone started acting weird. It recorded video by itself. When I checked the footage, I saw myself asleep, and in the final seconds, Lina appeared behind me. Her face was blurry, but I recognized her. She leaned down and whispered something I couldn't quite hear. I moved to a new apartment, hoping to escape the memories, but it followed me. Mirrors in the new place fogged up by themselves, and words appeared, "Why?" and "I miss you." I started receiving messages from her deleted accounts, texts that said, "I'm still here, and you can't leave me." I reached out to a medium, though I didn't really believe in that stuff. She touched my hand and said, "She died angry, she thinks you abandoned her." Since then, I can't sleep. I hear footsteps in empty rooms, lights flicker on and off. Electronic devices turn on by themselves. My new girlfriend left after waking up with scratches on her back, shaped like the letter L last night. I woke up to a note on my nightstand in her handwriting. One word. Soon. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. If anything happens to me, know this. She's real and she's not gone. After the note, things went from bad to worse. I started forgetting little things, where I put my keys, what I had for breakfast. At first, I thought it was just stress. But then, I noticed I was losing whole hours. Time slipping away like I was sleepwalking through my own life. At home, the atmosphere changed. Doors would creak open on their own, even though I was sure I locked them. Objects vanished, only to reappear in places I would never leave them. Once, I found my wallet inside the fridge. Another time, my keys were hanging on the bathroom faucet. At night, the whispers started, faint, almost inaudible, calling my name, Alex, Alex, coming from dark corners I couldn't see. The phone calls began, 2 silent calls from unknown numbers, and then one night, a voice. Lina's voice, cold, accusing. "Why did you leave me? You promised." I wanted to tell someone, but friends just brushed it off, said I was stressed or imagining things. Maybe they were right, but I knew I wasn't crazy. One night I woke up with a sharp pain in my arm. Scratches, 3 letters deep and raw. Lin, I live alone. I have no idea who or what could have done that. I began to feel watched. Eyes on me, even when I was alone. Shadows moving in the corners of my vision. Cold spots where the air dropped like ice. The medium was right. Lina was angry, betrayed. I tried to fight it, to push her away, but it only made her stronger. Last night I woke again to that voice, whispering in my ear, "Listen to me." I wasn't alone. After Emma moved in, I thought things might get better. I needed someone by my side, someone who could pull me out of this nightmare, but I was wrong. At first, Emma was my anchor. She listened patiently as I told her about Lina, the nightmares, the strange messages. She never laughed or called me crazy. Instead, she held my hand and said, "We'll get through this." But then things started to shift. It began with small things. Emma would zone out, staring at nothing for minutes at a time. When I asked her what she was thinking about, She'd blink and shake her head like she'd just snapped out of a trance. One night, Emma woke me up, trembling and soaked with sweat. She whispered, "There's a woman in my room. She's cold, angry, she watches me." I tried to reassure her, but the fear in her eyes was real. That night, I felt it too, a coldness crawling beneath my skin, like the air around us was thick with something dark and heavy. The next day, strange things started to happen at Emma's apartment. I noticed a scarf draped over her couch, Lina's scarf, the one she always wore on chilly days. Emma swore she hadn't seen it before. A few days later, I found a bracelet on Emma's dresser, the one Lina gave me on our first anniversary. Emma had no idea how it got there. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. Or maybe I'd misplaced those things and didn't remember. But deep down, I knew Lina was making herself known, and she wasn't done. Emma's behavior grew stranger. Sometimes, when I talked to her, she'd pause and say things only Lina could have known. A detail about a place we went, a phrase Lina used to say. It chilled me to the bone. One evening, Emma and I were watching a movie when she suddenly stopped speaking mid-sentence. Her eyes glazed over. Then, in a voice not her own, cold and hard, she whispered, "You were mine. You always will be." I froze. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Emma blinked and looked at me, confused, as if nothing had happened. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. The line between Emma and Lina is blurring, and I'm terrified I'm losing the woman I love, or worse, losing myself. Last night I woke up to find Emma standing at the foot of my bed. Her eyes were pitch black, empty like a void. Her smile was twisted, cruel. "We're together now," she whispered, "forever. I want to run, but I'm trapped. Lina's shadow is everywhere, and I don't know how to break free." By now, I was barely holding on. I started seeing things I couldn't explain. Shadows moving just beyond my vision, whispers curling around me like smoke. I would wake up with bruises and scratches I couldn't remember getting. My reflection sometimes looked wrong, like it wasn't really me staring back. I tried therapy, pills, anything to ground me back in reality, but nothing worked. Every time I thought I was safe, Lina's presence slammed into me like a storm. One night, desperate, I tried to reach out to her. I found an old ritual online, something meant to release restless spirits. It required me to light candles, say certain words, and confront whatever was haunting me. I set it all up in my apartment. The air was thick and heavy. My hands shook as I lit the candles. I spoke the words aloud, voice barely above a whisper. At first, nothing happened. Then the room grew cold. The candles flickered violently. I saw her, Lina, appearing out of the darkness, eyes burning with fury. She spoke, but it wasn't with words. Images flooded my mind, memories I'd buried deep. The night she died, the lies I told myself, the truth I was too afraid to face. She showed me what really happened. I wasn't there for her. I left her alone, scared, broken. "You lied to me," she said, voice echoing like thunder. Now she claimed me. I felt myself slipping, my body growing cold, my mind clouding. Death wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. I don't know how much longer I have left in this world. Lina is everywhere, in my thoughts, in my dreams, in the shadows waiting to pull me under. If you're watching this, remember, some ghosts don't rest, and sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. Days turned into nights without difference. I stopped counting time because the boundaries of reality were dissolving. Emma was gone, or maybe she never really existed anymore. I was alone, or so I thought. But the apartment was alive with whispers and shadows. Objects moved without cause. I'd find cold spots in every room, like invisible hands gripping me. Sleep became a battlefield. Every time I closed my eyes, Lina's face appeared pale, wet, eyes hollow. She'd reach for me, but whenever I tried to touch her, she'd vanish like smoke. I began talking to her, not out of hope but desperation. "Why won't you leave me alone?" I begged one night. Her answer was silence. Then one evening the power went out. The room plunged into darkness. A single candle flickered on the floor. In the dim light I saw her, Lina, standing in the corner, her form barely more than a shadow. But her eyes shone bright with fury and sorrow. "You can't escape," she whispered. "I don't want this," I cried, but it was too late. The walls seemed to close in. The air thickened. I felt myself slipping like drowning in cold water. I realized then I was trapped between two worlds, between life and death. And Lina was my jailer. Days bled into nights and nights bled into nightmares. Sleep became my enemy and waking moments offered no relief. Lina's presence wasn't just haunting me anymore, she was consuming me. I started noticing things that no one else could. My reflection in the mirror began to warp, twisting into a face that wasn't mine, or perhaps it was mine, but broken, cracked, haunted. The air in my apartment grew heavier, like I was breathing underwater, suffocating in silence. Emma was gone, disappeared without a trace. Maybe she left out of fear. Maybe Lina took her. Or maybe, deep down, I wished she'd left. Because the only company I had left was the cold, merciless shadow of my ex. One evening, as rain pounded against the window, I sat in the dark, lit only by a dying candle. I whispered into the silence, "Lina, what do you want from me?" The room shifted. A chill swept through me, and suddenly she was there. Not just a shadow or a whisper. Lina stood before me, her eyes black voids dripping with tears of darkness. Her voice was a hollow echo. "You abandoned me," she said. "Now you belong to me." I tried to move, but my body was frozen, trapped in place by invisible chains. Panic surged through me. I screamed, but no sound escaped my lips. Suddenly, memories flooded my mind. Moments I tried to forget. The fights, the lies, the night she called begging for help and I didn't answer. "I was scared," I whispered. "I didn't know how to help." Her face twisted in rage and sorrow. "You failed me, and now you will never be free." The candle flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room. I was alone, or was I? The air was thick, suffocating, like the walls themselves were closing in. I could feel Lina's presence everywhere, an oppressive weight pressing down on my chest. Every shadow seemed alive, whispering my name with venom and sorrow. I knew I couldn't run anymore. This nightmare was mine to face. Armed with a fragile hope and a desperate plan, I prepared myself. I gathered everything the medium had told me: candles, salt, old photographs, and a small vial of holy water. Tonight, I was going to confront Lina once and for all. I set the scene in my apartment's living room, dimming the lights and lighting the candles in a circle around me. The smell of burning wax filled the room. The salt lined the perimeter of the circle like a fragile barrier. My hands trembled as I held the photograph of Lina, the only memory I had left of who she once was, before the darkness swallowed her whole. I whispered the words the medium taught me, ancient incantations meant to call out the restless spirit. At first, nothing happened. The silence was deafening. Then the temperature dropped suddenly. The candles flickered violently. Shadows danced on the walls. A cold wind swept through the room despite the closed windows. And then she appeared, Lina, but not as I remembered her. Her eyes burned with hatred, her form flickering like a flame about to be snuffed out. She stepped toward me, voice echoing like a dark song. "You think you can banish me? I am part of you now." "I'm sorry," I whispered. Tears streamed down my face. "I never wanted this. I loved you." Her rage faltered for a moment, the flicker of the girl I once knew. But then the darkness came back stronger than ever. "You left me alone. You let me die." The circle trembled, the salt shifting beneath my feet. The candles flickered as if fighting against a storm. I felt myself pulled toward the void, cold tendrils wrapping around my heart, dragging me down. But I held on. "Please," I begged, "let me help you find peace." For a heartbeat, the room was still. Then a whisper. "Remember me?" Her form softened, eyes losing their blackness, filling with tears. And then she was gone. The candles burned steadily. The silence returned. I was alone, but free.